Dr. Naomi Reyes had dreamed of this afternoon for years, long before the city council awarded her the derelict warehouse roof on Mercer Street, or the astrophysics department voted her promotion through clenched teeth. A rare annular eclipse would thread its shadow over New York at 4:07 p.m. And for once the metropolis felt like the center of the universe instead of a place suffocated by its own lights. Naomi had turned the roof into a sky watcher's garden, potted lavender lining the parapet, rental deck chairs in neat half-moons, a bar cart sparkling with iced kava, and 5 telescopes angled toward the blaze that would soon be a ring of fire. At 2:30, the elevator clattered open onto the roof, releasing the first wave of guests. Reporters from Science Now, board members of the Ashcroft Foundation, a scattering of postdocs hoping to be seen by someone who could sign visas. They murmured admiration, took selfies against the skyline, and eyed the impressive centerpiece on a tripod near the eastern corner. Naomi's personal Maxitov Cassegrain, a matte black cannon of glass and carbon fiber worth more than her graduate stipend had been. Mounted at the barrel was a gold-tinted solar filter, the equivalent of welding goggles for the cosmos. She greeted each arrival with the same pitch-perfect cordiality. "Welcome. I'm so happy you could join us. Glasses are on that table. Keep them on whenever you look up." If she noticed anyone trying to pocket a souvenir, she simply raised an eyebrow, and the guilty hand replaced the cardboard spectacles at once. At 3:05 p.m., the elevator dinged again, and every hair on her arms rose. Victor Harrow strode out as though stepping onto a victory podium. Impeccable linen suit, patent leather shoes that somehow never scuffed, and a smile so white it looked refrigerated. 4 years earlier, he had derailed her proposal for a satellite calibration grant. 2 months ago, he had filed a preprint scooping half her graduate student's dissertation. And yet here he was, invited by the Foundation's director, because no philanthropic event could be complete without the golden boy of the Royal Observatory. Naomi walked to meet him, shaping her lips into something neutral. "Dr. Harrow, glad you could make it." He pressed a kiss to the air near her cheek. "Dr. Reyes, always a pleasure. I hear your rooftop setup is the talk of Lower Manhattan." Behind him trailed his postdoc, May Park, carrying a polished aluminum case. Naomi recognized the embossed sigil, Harrow's prototype spectrophotometer, rumored to pull elemental fingerprints from sunspots in seconds. May looked both thrilled and apologetic, as though she had personally scheduled an eclipse over Naomi's celebration. "Spectacular view," Harrow went on, scanning the parapet. "Mind if I set up my instrument on the edge? I wouldn't get in your way." Naomi gestured towards the western corner, furthest from her telescope. "As you like, but please attach a proper filter. I'd hate to file the paperwork if someone fries their retina." "Of course," he said, as though the notion of error did not apply to him. The crowd thickened. At 3:20 p.m., waiters in black aprons circulated with citrus water and puff pastry spirals. Naomi moved among her guests, adjusting tripods, checking that smartphone cameras were fitted with mylar sheets. Her graduate mentee, Luna Zhang, hovered near the refreshments table, notebook in hand. Luna's nervous brilliance reminded Naomi of her younger self, so eager, so easily bruised. "Dr. Reyes," Luna whispered when they were briefly alone behind a stack of folding chairs. "Harrow's scope looks off. The front filter he's using has a little chip at the rim." Naomi peered across the roof. The defect was visible even from 20 feet, a glint of raw glass where mylar should have been opaque. Her jaw clenched. "I'll handle it," She approached Harrow as tactfully as possible. "Victor, I think your filter might be compromised. There's a nick." He pulled away from the eyepiece, teeth flashing. "It's a superficial scuff, Naomi. The central aperture is pristine. I've tested this rig in the Atacama Desert. Even so, direct solar intensity will barely graze the edge. I assure you, my equipment is safe. Loud enough for several donors to hear." Naomi considered pressing further, but a roar of traffic on the street below drowned her reply, and she let the matter drop rather than stage a public joust she could not win. 3:41 p.m. The moon's curve began to bite into the sun's disk, and the rooftop buzz turned electric. Light dulled to an eerie silver, shadows sharpened into double outlines. Phones dinged with lens flare images. A violin student Naomi had hired began to play Debussy's Clair de Lune in slow, reverent phrases. For a moment, Naomi forgot Victor existed. She pressed an eye to her telescope, saw the black scallop gnawing daylight, and felt the old tidal awe, the heavens performing geometry over her city. A hand touched her sleeve. "Do you have a second lens cloth?" Harrow asked. She pointed to a utility box by the stairwell without lifting her eye. "Top drawer." When the violin slid into a pianissimo, the rooftop was so hushed she could hear pigeons flutter on the cornice 3 buildings over. 3:59 p.m. The eclipse was minutes from maximum. Naomi pivoted between guests, offering them turns at her scope, each exhalation fogging the eyepiece that bit more slowly now as the temperature dipped. Over and over she repeated, "Don't take off your glasses. Keep one hand on the tripod." Beside the parapet, Victor worked his apparatus by touch, confidence undimmed. May always stood half a pace behind, Notes app open on her phone. Luna lingered nearby, arms folded tight. 4:06 p.m. Naomi pulled away from her telescope to let a schoolteacher squeeze in. For one heartbeat, she looked over the party not as host, but as stranger. Silhouettes rimmed by ghostlight, faces tilted skyward in silent worship, the skyline a pew of steel. The violin fell quiet, then a scream, the kind that cracks air like glass. Heads whipped toward the sound. Victor Harrow staggered back from his telescope, both hands clutching his face. The aluminum instrument toppled, clattering against roof tar. May shrieked his name and grabbed his elbows as he sagged to his knees. Naomi sprinted. "Victor, what happened?" "Bright, flash," he gasped, fingers clawed over his eyes. "Burning, can't see." May looked at Naomi with horror. He said the image suddenly flared, the filter. Naomi knelt, prized one hand from his face. The pupil was a pinpoint in a sea of bloodshot sclera. She had seen retinal flash burns once during an undergraduate lab accident. This matched exactly. Beside the fallen telescope, the solar filter lay face up and cracked clean through. A jagged hole, big as a nickel, gaped where protective film should have been. Phones filmed, guests shouted for paramedics. Naomi barked instructions. Elevators faster than stairs. Someone hit the lobby buzzer. EMS on the way. She pressed a chilled Carver bottle against Victor's forehead to keep him conscious. Every second mattered. Retinal cells cooked under unseen lasers. Sirens arrived in under 5 minutes, but felt like 50. Paramedics secured Harrow on a gurney, a padded shield over his eyes. As they wheeled him toward the elevator, he angled his head toward Naomi, unfocused rage burning through the blindness. "You invited me to this." The metal doors swallowed him. The eclipse climaxed at that precise instant, sunlight forming a perfect ring around lunar night. No one on the roof cared. 2 hours later, the rooftop was a crime scene. Police tape sagged between deck chairs. Fingerprint powder dusted every tripod screw. Most guests had been escorted down, trembling pinch points of misfortune. Only Naomi, Luna, May, and a detective named Alvarez remained under the cooling sky, now gradient with after-sunset violet. Alvarez was a patient bull of a man, notes scribbled in a flat leather pad. Tell me again, who had direct contact with Dr. Harrow's equipment? May lifted a shaking hand. I attached the filter at 3:10. He checked it at 3:25. No one else touched it that I saw. Naomi spoke carefully. I was nearby nearly the whole time. My student Luna was as well. We noticed a chip in the filter early on. Which you reported, Alvarez asked. To him, yes. He dismissed it. The detective nodded toward the busted filter in an evidence bag. That looks like more than a chip. Luna chimed in, voice barely a sound. It wasn't like that when we saw it. Alvarez grunted. People don't go blind from a decorative crack. Someone tampered. Question is whether that someone meant to injure or merely sabotage. Thunder in Naomi's ears. Deliberate harm at an academic gathering. It was unthinkable, except it had just happened. She replayed the afternoon frame by frame. Victor asking for a lens cloth. Her pointing to the utility box. She hadn't watched him retrieve it. She had watched almost everything else, but not that. Could he have damaged the filter himself? She asked, more to herself than the detective. Alvarez shrugged. Self-inflicted sabotage seems unlikely, unless he wanted a lawsuit to finance his next grant. May bit her lip. He was obsessive about safety. I once saw him scrap a full night of data because a camera sensor hood was missing one screw. Naomi flashed on another memory. Yesterday evening, Luna hunched over a 3D printed filter adapter, frustration making her cheeks blotch. Dr. Reyes, this won't fit. Harrow brags about bespoke threading, but it's practically proprietary sabotage. Naomi had laughed, brushed it off. But Luna had been the one to spot the chip today, the one monitoring Victor's scope with almost parental intensity. Detective Alvarez must have watched Naomi's gaze shift because he asked, Dr. Zhang, mind if we step aside? Luna's eyes widened behind her round glasses. I didn't do anything. It's just questions, Alvarez said, guiding her toward the stairwell door. Naomi stood frozen. May hugged herself, skin goose-pimpled despite the humid evening. When Alvarez returned 20 minutes later, Luna trailed behind, cheeks tear-streaked. The detective looked weary but not triumphant. She admits she argued with Harrow yesterday about data access, says she never touched the filter, no evidence yet says otherwise. May exhaled, relief mixing with continuing dread. What next? Forensics will analyze the break. Could tell us if it was weakened beforehand or shattered on impact, Alvarez said. He closed his notebook. No arrests tonight, but don't leave town without notifying me. He left them to the hush of generators from buildings across the alley. The rooftop, once Naomi's cathedral, felt desecrated. News of the accident detonated by dawn. Headlines: Celebrity astronomer blinded during luxury eclipse party. Op-eds speculated about scientific hubris, the hazards of glass made for gods. Naomi's inbox filled with reporters' requests. Her voicemail overflowed with lawyers. The university suspended her outreach budget pending investigation. At 10 a.m. she sat in her office, shades drawn, reading the same paragraph of a grant review over and over, a timid knock. Luna entered, notebook clutched like a flotation device. Dr. Reyes, there's something I have to tell you. Naomi gestured to the chair, bracing. Luna swallowed. Yesterday, after everyone left rehearsal on the roof, I stayed to finish calibrating your solar camera. Victor came up to measure ambient light for his spectrophotometer. He laughed at my notes and called them amateur. I was furious. Naomi had to grip the desk edge. "Luna, what did you do?" "I didn't hurt him, I swear. But I removed the tiny set screw that locks his filter ring." Words poured out in a single breath. I thought if the filter wouldn't seat properly, he wouldn't collect usable data. Maybe he'd miss the grant deadline. Petty revenge, I know. Tears welled. I planned to replace the screw this morning before anyone noticed. I never imagined the filter would crack, only that it would wobble and mess up spectrograph alignment. Naomi closed her eyes. A loose filter under solar heat could warp, hairline fracture, even pop. Victor might have tightened it to compensate, stress concentrating along the chip Luna had observed. Minutes later, mortal light through Swiss cheese glass. "Luna, this is sabotage." "And negligence," Luna whispered. "Not assault." "The result is the same," Naomi said, standing. "We have to tell Alvarez." Luna nodded, tears silent. They met the detective at precinct headquarters. He listened, recorded, asked for the removed screw. Luna produced it from a Ziploc bag in her tote. Chain of custody forms rustled. Alvarez spoke softly when finished. "This falls under reckless endangerment causing serious injury. Manslaughter laws don't apply because no death, but sentencing can still be severe. District attorney will decide." Naomi walked Luna outside. Overhead, yesterday's eclipse had left the sky scrubbed clean, as if embarrassed. "I'll resign," Luna said on the steps. "You can't have a criminal mentee." "No," Naomi answered before thinking. "You'll face consequences, but disappearing isn't one. We'll cooperate, repair what can be. If Victor ever regains sight, he deserves honesty, not a vanishing act." Luna's shoulders shook with silent gratitude, and despair blended into one. Summer advanced. Legal gears ground slowly. Harrow underwent photocoagulation therapy, prognosis uncertain. The press moved on to wilder catastrophes. Naomi cancelled all public events, her telescope caps collecting dust. Each evening she climbed the roof alone, lavender wilting in plastic pots, and stared at the horizon whose glory had birthed so much ambition, and now ruin. Mid-July brought a letter thick as a novella, Harrow's civil lawsuit, naming the university, Naomi, and Luna jointly and severally liable. Potential damages, 8 figures. University lawyers advised settling. The board, once star-eyed at rooftop parties, could not purge the words gross negligence from their minutes fast enough. Naomi met Luna at a dumpling shop near campus. Steam fogged the window. Both women looked exhausted. Naomi slid over the letter. "They'll settle, but Victor wants depositions. He's asking for a written apology from you, and from me." "I'll sign anything," Luna said. "You've already risked your career for me." Naomi tasted bitterness. "I protected truth, not you. Remember that when you caution your own students someday." Outside, afternoon light slanted like an accusation. The deposition room at Langley & Sharp LLP overlooked Central Park, irony in green velvet. Harrow sat flanked by attorneys, dark glasses hiding his maimed eyes. A cane leaned against his chair. When Naomi entered, conversation ceased. Harrow spoke first. "Dr. Reyes, I trust discovery has shown the culprit." She inclined her head. "It has." "I accept that Ms. Jiang acted alone." His tone suggested no answer would please him. Naomi clasped her hands. "She removed a set screw. That negligence contributed. But May reported a chip in your filter. You chose to proceed." "Are you blaming me for my own blinding?" "I'm stating facts," she said, voice level. A lawyer cleared his throat. Let the record reflect that causation is disputed. For settlement purposes, parties agree to interpret actions as collective fault. The negotiation that followed was arithmetic, not justice. Naomi would forfeit her outreach budget for 5 years, Luna her position as research assistant, though allowed to complete her PhD off-campus. The university would fund a new adaptive optics lab under Harrow's auspices. Money in place of vision. At the end, papers shuffled. Harrow addressed Naomi once more. "Tell me, was your party worth it?" She considered the lavender, the violin, that instant when the city bowed under cosmic clockwork. She thought of the scream that followed. "No," she said, "and yet I'll hold another some day, with better safety locks, with humility you and I both lacked." Harrow's jaw tightened, but he said nothing further. Autumn found Naomi teaching an undergraduate course called Astronomy and Ethics, enrollment triple the norm. On the first day, she carried 2 props, a cardboard Eclipse viewer and a cracked solar filter sealed in acrylic. She recounted the story, sparing no detail. Students stared, horrified. She ended with, "Science without vigilance is malpractice. Curiosity without conscience is a loaded gun." After class, while packing up, she discovered a note slipped under her laptop. Ink neat, unfamiliar. "I was on the rooftop that day. Your courage afterward kept me in physics. Thank you." Unsigned. Naomi walked out into brisk October air, feeling, for the first time in months, the faint pull of stars above daylight's veil. She would refurbish the rooftop, yes, but only after installing redundant filters, tamper-proof seals, and a rule that arrogance, like unshielded sun, could scorch more than eager eyes. She paused at a crosswalk, looked up, and pictured the eclipse ring not as a crown, but as a cautionary halo, light beautiful precisely because it could blind. Around her, the city thrummed, indifferent yet promising, a vast lattice of rooftop edges from which to seek the universe, and, if one was wise, to respect its lethality.